And thank you very much to all our speakers this evening. Our conference theme, as you know, was inspiration, and I, for one, have certainly been left inspired tonight. So with that in mind, I'm sure there's lots of questions amongst you all. When asking a question, can you please just let us know who the question is directed to? So can I take the first question, please? Richard, I can see you've got your hand up there.
I'll start with one for David Brass first. I really enjoyed what you said about ammonia capture with the tree breaks and what have you around the poultry houses. Do you think that's going to become, going forward, do you think that could possibly become a planning requirement for dairy and poultry units going forward?
It wouldn't at all surprise me. What you have, I guess, in Shropshire in particular and around the Monmouth type area with very high levels of ammonia already, what it could be is the things like, I've got 4 poultry units, or I've got a unit already. If I plant trees around that and I can reduce my ammonia by 30%, could I get another one? Or, like I said, part of an ammonia mitigation strategy. We have a couple of producers in this part of the world, very close to SSIs, who are doing just that, using this piece of research practical research we've just been doing. In fact, it hasn't been published yet, so they're using it a bit on the back of knowing me, I guess. But it will be published going in the next month or two. And again, it's mitigation and part of your ammonia strategy that you can put forward with planning. That it makes a much more sensible case. I mean, there's other things as well. It's things like difference of slurry tankers, covering slurry stores. It isn't just trees, but trees is beauty of trees is you plant them and you look after them for 5 years, and the next 100 years they do it for themselves. Cost you nothing. It's a long-term strategy that can work very well. So yes, it will make planning in some areas a lot easier.
Thank you very much, Richard. And also thank you very much there, David. Next, I'll come to Meg and then to Carol. So Meg, over to you.
Okay, so thank you, speakers, for coming, and you've all been very, very interesting tonight. But I think I have a question specifically aimed at the poultry industry. So Morrison's have pledged to be the first supermarket to be completely supplied by net zero carbon farms by 2030, and they're aiming for egg to be their first produce to reach net zero by 2022, which I think is an incredible statement to make. How achievable do you think that is?
A tad on the cynical side. I'm always cynical. Anybody who knows me. The initial announcement was all our eggs are going to be sourced. There's a briefing to the NFU last week or the week before saying it was one line was going to be actually carbon neutral or net zero. Achievable, yes. Depends on the farm. We have some farms that 20 years ago when we started planting trees, planted the whole farm. Severely disadvantaged, marshy type ground, not good for particularly anything else. Single suckling cows were going out, so planted the whole farm. Those farms, if you count the sequestration of the effect of the trees, relatively simple to be net zero. So I think it's achievable, but I think it's a big ask. And the trouble is that whole, I can go on, like I said earlier, I was on a conference this afternoon for 2 hours just discussing sustainability. There's no national poultry industry standard on carbon counting yet. There probably never will be a national standard. DEFRA will have one, Welsh Government will have another one, each retailer will have its own, throw in a couple of auditing organisations, and there'll be dozens of different carbon counting standards, which is one of the issues we've got, I guess. So it depends what's in your standards to whether you achieve it or not.
Great, thank you very much, David, and also to Meg for her excellent question there. Next, I'll come to Carol. I can see you've got a hand up. Can I have your question, please?
Lovely, diolch, Claire. This is aimed really towards all speakers for tonight, really. We've seen over the last 14 months, really, that people have started to look at shopping locally. Owen mentioned that obviously he's had an increase of people that are buying local products with him during the last couple of months. Do you think people know enough in regards to where their food actually comes from? Do you think there is a potential for us as young farmers or farmers in general to be showing more of our daily lives and where the actual food comes from.
Thank you very much, Hal. If we first pass that to Matt, would you like to respond on that?
Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, I mean, firstly, I think it's fantastic. A lot of customers have been shopping more locally and trying to understand more about where their food comes from. One of the things we probably see, even as a big supermarket, is that customers are so far removed from a lot of the supply chains, and they don't really realise the work or the effort that goes into producing a lot of our food. So I think it's really important. And I think certainly with some of the rhetoric that we're seeing from documentaries on the likes of Netflix around, the issues with eating red meat and the issues with eating meat in general, I think we've all got a bit of a role to play to actually push some of the real benefits of one, what we do, one, the way we farm, and also the benefits of eating meat and eggs and dairy in general, actually. So I think it's really important for us to try and counteract some of that rhetoric that's coming out, and try and educate customers as well, because I think there is an appetite there, but I don't think customers always necessarily know where to go to find this information. So yeah, I think there's a real key role for us to play there.
And thank you very much, Matt. Owen, this would be quite a marketing strategy, quite linked close to your business. So would you have any comments on this, please?
Yeah, I think it's all comes down to like transparency and using maybe sort of like the younger generation, then using social media for possibly a positive thing. You hear so much about negative news about social media, but I believe, like in what we're doing, it can be a touchy issue, especially with eating animals for meat and put it on social media. It's just the way it is. But trying to sort of promote it in a positive way and be open. For us, it's also I think I proposed today actually something about sort of like supplying these sort of restaurants and cafes that are reopening, but also supplying the ones that are supporting local producers. It's all very well and good, supporting sort of like these local hospitality businesses, but where are they sourcing their produce from? So I think it's up to us and sort of like YFC members as well to put it in front of the consumer, and using social media platform in a positive way.
Thank you very much, Owen. Now to David, obviously poultry is slightly different and with eggs, but do you have any comments to add to this question?
I agree with both bits of both Matt and Owen, to be absolutely honest. I think as an industry, farmers in general are just way too negative. We're always, it's bad weather, it's bad this, it's bad that, just naturally what we do. I'm a farmer, I know what we do. We shouldn't do that. We should shout from the rooftops. It's a good industry, it's a good career. We produce superb food, beats the rest of the world hands down, and tell people about it. Absolutely certain we need to get involved more and more with telling people about the produce that they're eating, where it comes from.
Absolutely. Thank you very much to all speakers there for their comments. Can I take the next question, please? Will, I know you had some questions that you wanted to ask tonight. Can I have one of those, please?
Yeah, it was for Owen, really. What do you think was your biggest learning curve from starting out? Well, yeah.
Pulling yourself back up, really. When you get knocked down, that was the biggest thing right from the beginning. Financial challenges with raising animals, selling your products. Yeah, a bit of everything really. I think it's building that sort of the barrier that you will, things will happen, but if you are passionate about what you're doing, then you'll push through those barriers. That's what we sort of learned. Maybe I've never once thought that I'm doing the wrong thing. Always believe that we are doing the right thing and sort of going down the right route of sort of educating people on where their food is coming from. So I think it's if you're really passionate about what you're doing, you will achieve it. And I think it's just the mentality of even if there any doubters or any sort of barriers in your way, then you just you head down and you achieve it.
Thank you very much, Owen. And on the theme of inspiration, I think that's a great question. So I'll also put that to David, if that's okay.
Thought you might.
You're welcome.
I've got to agree 100% with you. I want to be absolutely honest. The glass is always half full, not half empty. Every time you get kicked, just get up and do it again. If you believe in what you're doing, that's the only way to succeed, really. Plan carefully, but there's always rocks in the road. So you need to be able to climb rocks, I guess.
Thank you very much, David. So with time ticking on tonight, we do have time for a couple more questions. So I can see Katie and Meg have both got their hands up. So I'll come to you first, Katie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you everybody for your speeches. It really has been inspiring to hear all of you tonight. On that kind of theme of inspiration, I suppose to Dave and Owen it fits with you a bit better, but it would be interesting to hear from the team in relation to the LAM scheme as to who's inspired you. If you could choose one person, who would that be that's inspired you, whether that's from agriculture or non-agriculture? It would just be quite interesting to hear who that would be. Thank you.
So Katie, who did you wish to put that forward to first? Was there?
Sorry, so I suppose it fits better for Dave and Owen, but if anybody from the Welsh LAM scheme wanted to say who's inspired them, maybe a member of the scheme or in the industry, it'd be interesting to hear that as well.
Thank you very much, Katie. So I'll put that to Owen first.
Probably briefly mentioned him, but the owner of the cattle station out in Australia, the guy was, very sort of tough, typical outback guy, but achieved amazing things just from nothing. Just a hard-working guy, great family, and just put the sort of the graft in. The first season that they bought I say farm, there wasn't any property. The first season they put their caravan in an area that later on flooded, and that was the only building they had at the time. So that went, and they put another caravan a bit higher up, and now they're absolutely massive. And he's sort of the main guy in Western Australia for rearing cattle, and just and sometimes I think when we're doing stuff around our place, I think what will Peter do sometimes, and it's easy to do a quick fix or think, oh, that'll be fine or something like that. But this guy was such a perfectionist, and and put the graft in that. Yeah, it was definitely him.
Great, thank you very much, Owen. And David, who is yours?
Oh, it's a long list. My instructors in the Air Force that told me never to give up and taught me to never give up. You give up, you lose. Don't give up. My first sales director who showed me the definitions and ideas of planning in business down to the minutest detail to get it right and sort your market, look at your market closely, align with your market and drive mercilessly towards it. And I think the key one thing is it's got to be Helen, my other half. At the same time as we built the business the way we have, she's also looked after 2 sets of twins and all the finances in HR. So actually, I'm the one who's done nothing. She's done all the work, really. At the same time, every time I'm a little bit down, she gives me a kick and say, get on with it. Behind a good man, there's a better woman, they always say.
Thank you very much, David. And I can see there's a hand up from Meg. And I think this will be our last question for this evening, as I know time is moving on swiftly. So Meg, can I have your question, please?
So my question is perhaps a little bit cliche, but I'm in my final week of lectures now in my degree in Aberystwyth, and I was wondering, as an agricultural graduate moving out into the sector, if there was one bit of advice you could give me, well, if you could offer me a job as well, that'd be fantastic. But for the purpose of this conference, if there was one piece of advice you could give me as someone moving out into the industry, what would it be?
Thank you very much, Meg. I'm going to come to all 3 speakers on this one. So to Matt, to you first, if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries. So I think, because I've been in a very similar position to you, don't be afraid to maybe either take a little bit of a deviation or just take quite a big change to get to where you want to. So I know when I left university, applied for lots of graduate schemes, applied for lots of jobs, and moved up to Morrison's for my first role. wasn't necessarily something I saw coming, and was quite a big shift to kind of pick your life up and move it elsewhere. But definitely paid off in the long run. Learned an awful lot, and there's so many skills that you can pick up from doing roles that maybe aren't directly attributable to kind of agriculture that'll stand you in really good stead later on. So obviously really try and push for the kind of the role that you really want to get into straight away. But if that doesn't come up first time round, then don't be afraid to try other things. You're still young, you've got years ahead of you, and you've got a lot of time to learn and develop, and just use every opportunity as definitely a learning curve and a learning experience would probably be my advice.
Thank you very much. Oh, go on.
I was going to say good luck, yeah. And if you want to come and spend a couple of days down in Sainsbury's, then I'm sure we could get something arranged.
Yeah, I was going to say, I may take you up on that offer. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Great. Thank you very much, Matt. And to Owen next.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Matt. We knew what we wanted to, where we wanted to get to. I still worked in the council for 3 years, and knowing that we wanted to have the farm and raise the pigs, so that nothing was so on a plate for us. So we kind of just balanced the two, and then just increased and increased and increased until you get to the point where, you can't. You have to put sort of all your energy into one. So like what Matt was saying, like even if sometimes you have to go on a different path to end up where you really want to be. But there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you sort of follow your gut and know what you want to achieve. You'll get there.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much. I hope that was a useful response to you there, Meg. And lastly to David.
Understand where you want to get to, understand what you're wanting to do, and then be confident, because nobody hires a mouse.
Thank you very much. And that is certainly a great line to end our question and answer session on. So thank you all very much for your questions, certainly inspiring and certainly some great answers there.